Hello everyone, it's me Bob here, and today I have another creepypasta narration for you. Today, we're going to be narrating Nickelodeon, the executive interview. So yeah, this is actually, it's kind of a lost episode creepypasta, but it's different, I know, of course. But don't worry, not all creepypastas I narrate are going to be lost episodes. I'll do like some gaming ones and just general creepypastas eventually, but anyways, we're getting off topic. So yeah, this is a pretty interesting creepypasta which I've known for quite some time. I believe I listened to The Formidable Robot narrated once, and Eternal Ferret, on the old channel, so... Yeah, anyways, I'm wasting time, so sit back and relax as I read to you Nickelodeon, the executive interview. The following is a transcript of an interview that was recorded on January 7th, 2016. It has been recently edited to count any personal information for release, with a few exceptions. The interviewee is a retired Nickelodeon executive. He wishes to be anonymous, so he hereby referred to as executive in this interview. He agreed to publicly release this transcript so long as the edits were made. Interviewer: we are recording now. So, you're a former executive at Nickelodeon. Executive: that's correct. Interviewer: how long have you been working in that field until you decided to retire? Executive: about 10 years now, I think. Before that, I was working in two positions, mainly as producer of SpongeBob and manager for the staff, since my employment in 2000. I'm a family man. I have a son who is going to be 16 years of age this year now. My wife and I are preparing for his birthday. Interviewer: how nice. Did you ever tell him that you're an executive at Nickelodeon? Executive: yeah, I did, but he didn't believe me at first. I showed proof, and you wouldn't believe the look on his face. Interviewer: okay, back on track. So, when you were promoted, when were you promoted as an executive? Executive: 2004. Just when the SpongeBob movie was released, my boss came into my office and said I was going to be promoted as an executive. I had had a bachelor's degree and some experience in supervisory. Then jackpot, I got the promotion and another career map lay out in front of me. When I got home, I told my wife, and she was excited to hear that I had been promoted to an executive level, since executives are well paid. And why so? Oh, you're going to be rich. Interviewer: what's your opinion on the current status of SpongeBob Nickelodeon? Executive: well, it's clear that SpongeBob and Nickelodeon have fallen from grace in the past years. Nickelodeon just keeps rushing out mediocre shows with horrible ratings and on the other hand, has just been complete trash with horrible jokes and episodes such as the infamous one-course meal, or as originally titled, Plankton Got Served. Now, SpongeBob has touched on suicide before, but not as disgusting and mean-spirited as this one. It was so terrible. My kid hates it, and even the entire staff despise its very existence. But what about the other executives? Simply, they don't care. They just want to get their money as soon as possible. That means giving a pass on every horrible show and episode. Occasionally, a few good ones do get aired, but it's very rarely a good episode on Nickelodeon. I guess I'm the only guy that cares about quality, but since Steven Hillenburg's returning to SpongeBob, so I bet Nickelodeon's going to get better and return to what it used to be. Interviewer: now, yeah, it sparked further my interest in you, cause of that phone call. Executive: what about it? Interviewer: well, because he mentioned that there was an incident on Nickelodeon's channel over the phone. Executive: oh yes, that was a few years ago now. Let me be clear, this isn't something I don't want to remember. I know this isn't a lost episode that you see on the internet. They don't exist, but we did do a similar thing with the sponge who can fly. But it wasn't locked away in a vault, never to be seen again, and we only used the lost episode word as a promotional tactic. Nothing was strange about it. No, this is a complete different thing, and no one's heard of it. Interviewer: can you describe this particular incident? Executive: I've never told anyone, but here it goes. Basically, it was a signal intrusion, but nothing of an intrusion I've seen before. Kinda like the Max Headroom incident, except longer. I was sick with the flu, and so I stayed home. I heard that a new SpongeBob episode was getting aired that day, so I told my son, and he reluctantly joins me. He was thinking it was just another poorly written episode to facepalm, knowing how bad the show's gotten. We sat on the sofa staring at the television, watching other shows and advertisements. At 12:17, the episode was finally about to air, but before the SpongeBob intro was going to come on, there was some flickering static on an advert. I can't remember, nor do I care about it is I'm going to describe the following event. I could still remember my son saying, "What's wrong with the TV, Dad?" Until the screen was fully engulfed by static. I immediately called my boss to see what's going on. He told me that someone was jamming Nickelodeon's signals, and that he will call me back to keep us updated on notable developments. He hung up and resumed watching the television. The static vanished, and there was a title card named Insanity, but it instantly changed to Heart and Mind, then kept changing to a number of titles in fractions of a second. Interviewer: how long was this? Executive: it just lasted for a minute, and then the opening showed it was corrupted text, but I'm pretty sure that it was just one person who made this fan-made episode. Interviewer: it was unofficial? Executive: of course it was. The creators would never created this, obviously. Executive: once the opening credits were gone, the episode started with an opening shot of the Krusty Krab from a bird's eye perspective late at night. Then it jump cut to the entrance of the Krusty Krab. The camera zoomed into the doors and went past them. SpongeBob was at the cashier, looking towards the screen. Squidward was nowhere to be found. A look on SpongeBob's face revealed emotionally that he was terrified, possibly because he's the only employee at the Krusty Krab. A few minutes passed, and an illuminated arm was slowly coming from the left side of the screen. Then it quickly gripped SpongeBob's head with startling speed, and SpongeBob screamed. The figure then ran to the entrance with SpongeBob in its hand and threw him out. It cuts to a shot of SpongeBob on the ground, then it switched to a shot of the illuminated figure at the doors. It didn't have a physique of Mr. Krabs. It didn't have a chalet or tall eyes. It didn't look like any of the fish characters at all. It was thin and had human features such as fingers and barely visible hair. Interviewer: and what was it doing? Executive: yelling at SpongeBob. I presume because of the head movement. I couldn't decipher what it was saying. There was no audio in this section, and the figure was too dark to see its lip movements. After this, it closed the doors on SpongeBob. At this point, he was even more terrified than before. Eventually, he calmed down and started walking home. The camera followed SpongeBob, and the screen whipped a sideways shot of SpongeBob walking home with the night sky in the background. The sky wasn't like the usual SpongeBob night sky with darkened out flowers, but a lap sky of Earth. If you actually seen it, you could have recognized the stars of Mars and Venus among others. The disturbing thing about that background sky was that they were photorealistic eyes in the sky, and they weren't there in the opening shot of this made-up episode. They were moving left to right. During this section, my boss called me and picked up. That Nickelodeon's engineers trying desperately to halt the broadcast. He also said they were looking into tracing the hijacker, but he said at this rate it was unlikely because the hijacker was using microwave-like signals from multiple locations. Therefore, whoever this was had some professional help, likely to set up that later to cover his or her tracks. The shot of SpongeBob walking home with that sky lasted 6 minutes. Then SpongeBob will reach his destination and jump cut to outside bird's eye view of his home, where he walked to the door and opened and closed it behind him. There was an eerie, almost cracking noise that stopped once went to the next scene. The next scene was in Squidward's house. There is a forward shot towards Squidward. He was reading a newspaper. The words in the newspaper were readable. It was describing an outbreak of an unknown virus. However, a phone was ringing and Squidward folded the newspaper to pick it up. Once he did, there was a baritone voice. You know that sound effect they use in cartoons? Anyways, Squidward responded with "yeah" and "okay, I'll be there." Presumably, this voice was telling him to come its location. He puts the newspaper on a table and walks out the front door, but I could remember seeing an opened doorway that Squidward did not include in his house. It looked something familiar. Interviewer: how did your son react to this episode? Executive: nothing. He was just bland for some reason. Frick me, crap. Interviewer: are you okay? Executive: yeah, just overreacted. That's why I don't want to talk about this incident. It's just something, never mind. So anyway, Squidward entered his car, which was rarely seen in episodes, and started it. He began driving on a dirt road. I don't know why, but it's just odd for a dirt road to instantly appear at his house. My boss texted me this time and asked me to bring a video camera or something. We didn't have a video camera, only just a late 90s camera that we never used after the 2000s. That we put in our closet. I rushed back there and picked up the camera, then rushed back to our sofa. Squidward was still driving on that dirt road, and a black van was soon following him. Then the van passed and turned right to what happened to be an abandoned schoolhouse. The screen soon went to black, and whispers were audible, and an image came up for 15 minutes. I loaded my camera and took a picture before it faded away. It was an image of a man in a white shirt holding a sheet stained with an unknown substance. Then my boss called me again, and I rushed to pick it up. He told me that they were going to cut the station temporarily for 60 to 26 hours after tracing and halting the broadcast, where attempted and continuously failed. He told me to bring in a camera tomorrow and hung up. Another image, no, video or GIF, or oh god, silence. Interviewer, what happened? Executive, it was an image, GIF or video. I don't freaking care. It was a GIF or freaking image of my house and my bedroom. There was the theme of SpongeBob faintly in the distance somewhere, and some figure walked through the open doorway. I take my camera and took a photo. Then blackout. The screen was black. They shut down the station. The broadcast had ended. But before that, text popped up and it read, "Be seeing you soon." My son and me were shocked. I turned off the TV, and my son never went to bed that night out of fear of what would happen to him. I had to explain this to my wife, which was less than stellar. Executive, frick this, I'm out. I should have never mentioned that over the phone. Interviewer, what about the camera? Executive, oh yeah, short answer. I have it and the photos with it. Interviewer, did they try confiscating the photos? Executive, I say yes and no. Yes, they confiscated all photos and videos of the incident, but not mine. When I came to Nickelodeon Studios and to my boss's office, he told me to leave and keep the camera. I asked why, and he said that he's me better than the other executive. And he mentioned that Nickelodeon CEO ordered all photos and videos to be confiscated and destroyed. He said that I should keep the photos, but saying that was a huge risk, but he was willing to take the chances. I left the studio but kept my job for a few years, but due to security reasons I retired, and I was at the right age. But the scary thing is that this whole incident was covered up quite well. So well, in fact, neither news articles nor any mentions of this existence. Anyways, can we terminate this interview? Interviewer, yes, if you wish. Executive, good. I will scan the photos and send you to them via email. Interviewer, one more question. Executive, yes. Interviewer, what did your boss say to you before he walked out? Executive, he said I never mentioned this incident and to watch myself and the eyes. The executive was displeased of what the interview turned out. He is paranoid of his safety and privacy. It's unknown what happened to him or what his current status is now. Okay, so that was that. If I'm being honest here, that was pretty unique and something that I'm pretty surprised not many other pastors exist of right now. Okay, that sentence did not make sense in the slightest. What I was trying to say is that I'm surprised how there's not really much pastors which exist in, this kind of review, interview transcript format. So, yeah, I'm actually, pretty surprised more of these don't exist. So, what are my thoughts on the story? I thought it was alright. I thought it was pretty good, I've known for the story for quite some time, but, I've, of course, not narrated because, I've only just started doing creepypasta narrations, I'm pretty sure less than a month ago. So, yeah, I'm a bit rusty, but, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, it was a good story, and let's actually pick apart, that's bad fit, I think, I don't know, anyways, I'm yapping, so, get to the review. Now, the first thing is, the actual concept of the story is, being an interview between an executive and an interviewer, and, the executive goes into detail about, his job and all that, and now, the actual things, that wasn't just, a lost episode or, a dark theory, it was, a genuine event, a cable intrusion. Now, there are pastors that believe about, cable intrusions, Cartoon Network and all that, I think, I don't know, a lot of lost episodes involve, cable intrusions and, TV hijackings and all that, so, but I just still find it to be a pretty good thing now. As for the actual episode itself, of course, it's a SpongeBob episode, so, it was interesting. It didn't really have much of a plot, but, and also, the episode didn't really have a title. It mentioned that the title card appeared saying Insanity, which, granted, is actually the name of another SpongeBob pasta, which I may or may not be doing a narration for in the future, so yeah, stay tuned for that. And then Heart and Mind, which I don't really know if that's a thing. And then a bunch of other titles and just corrupted text, so yeah. And apparently, the interviewer said, executive said it was, a fan-made episode, and the interviewer was like, oh, it was fan-made, and, the executive was like, oh, of course it was, why would the station make something like this? Yeah, that's just something I thought was kind of funny, and, I'd point out. Anyway, it's time to move on. Now, what I'm going to talk about next is something I don't really talk about a lot in creepypasta narrations, but this is just something I just really need to point out. It doesn't really have anything to do with the actual story itself, but it's just something I feel like I should mention. the grammar. And of course, the grammar was not the greatest, I'm being honest here. For example, there was a spelling error. For example, you may remember, when I was reading, I said, for example, where it said Squidward's car, which was barely seen in other episodes, it said Squidward car winch was barely seen in the other episodes. And, other grammatical errors, like, you it just made it kind of hard to read, which is why you made me, you may have heard me stutter a few times, I can't exactly remember all of them, but you may remember, or if you read the story yourself, which of course we'll be leaving a link to the story in the description, but yeah, of course, grammar isn't typically something I really care about, but it's just, I feel I just need to mention, because it made the story really quite hard to read, yeah, yeah. Now, next thing I'd like to point out is like the whole thing of after Squidward reached his destiny or driving for it, and that kind of got well. He said apparently a picture of his bedroom appeared, and then black screen, and then text saying "I'll see you soon." Normally something like that would kind of bug me in a story like this. And yes, it kind of did, but it wasn't really that bad, like think about it, some guy might have wanted to get revenge, and how they have gotten a picture of his room, I don't know, to be honest, but it's kind of interesting. That normally something like that would make me groan and sort of, but to me it kind of worked to a sense. Now, something else I'd like to point out. Early in the story, it talks about the executive saying, "Oh yeah, I hate a lot of New Sponge episodes," and one of the episodes was One Course Meal. However, he says that episode was originally titled Plankton Got Served, which Plankton Got Served, of course, another creepypasta, which I've narrated before, you can check that out if you wish. You can see my playlist, but anyways. I know stuff like that in creepypasta normally bothers a lot of people, but it kind of bothers me, but it's not particularly the biggest deal, It could have been left out, honestly, yeah, sure, but to me, it's not really anything that bad, it's not really anything to be getting, sitting here, getting wound up about, so, anyways, yeah. So anyways, overall, what are my final thoughts on the story? I thought it was good. It was pretty good. Some kind of cliched at some parts, and the grammar could really be improved. And, that slight mention of Plankton Got Served kind of got me, but it doesn't matter. So anyways, my rating on the story would have to be a 7.5 out of 10. It was a good story, really, really unique concept, but fell flat in some parts. So anyways, yeah, that's it for today's video. If you liked it, like, subscribe, turn on the key into the next video. Comment board if you made it this far, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!